Welcome, everybody, to Everyday Ethics. I'm your host, Michael Liebowitz, and today we are going to discuss the importance of principles. Now, let me just do this real quickly. Copy the link, share it here. All right. Now, first off, thank you, everybody, for joining. Remember, we do have super chats and super stickers. They are always highly appreciated, but they are definitely not a requirement to join in the discussion. And I hope that all of you, hello, Lee Frazier, and hello, Katrin, welcome you both to the show. So let's start with some definitions so that we know exactly what we're talking about. So the way that I'm using principle is the same way that Leonard Peikoff used it in this book here. This is my absolutely wrecked copy that I've had for 20 years. A principle is a general truth on which other truths depend. Every science and every field of thought involves the discovery and application of principles. A moral principle, accordingly, is not something sui generis, means it's not unique. It is a type of scientific principle identifying the relationship to man's survival of the various basic human choices. A man who acts on moral principle in this sense is neither a martyr, a zealot, nor a prig. He is a person guided by man's distinctive faculty of cognition. For a rational being, principled action is the only effective kind of action. To be principled is the only way to achieve long-term goal. The way that I think about a principle is that it's a fundamental point of similarity between different things or different concretes. So the principle of honesty, for instance. Thank you so much, Jenna Clean, for the $2 super chat. What did she say? This is getting to be a habit. Hopefully it's not a habit that puts you in the poorhouse, Jenna. We do not want that. So I think of a principle like honesty, for instance. Honesty means adherence to reality. It means telling the truth, not making up a false reality, not being dishonest, not lying. But it could be being honest with your girlfriend, honest with your friends, honest with yourself, honest with the audience. The concretes vary, but the fundamental is the same, and that's that I have to be honest or being productive. Being productive means that I produce the things, I put effort to create the things that I need in my life or that I can trade to others. So the importance of this is that if I had to, for instance, in every situation, figure out what I should do without the application of principles, then every situation is going to be new. Should I be honest here? Should I be dishonest here? Should I work hard here? Should I strive to act in my own interest here? Every situation would be a totally different thing, and I'd be overrun with the possibilities of what to do. So what we do is we conceptualize a short list of things that we can do. In that way we know. And Lee Frazier, thank you very much for the £4.99. She says she's in the poorhouse laughing her ass off, but she doesn't care. Buy myself something nice. Angel. Thank you, Lee. So, for instance, when I go to the store, right, I don't have to question every time, should I take something? Should I pay for it? I just know to do it. I know to be honest. I know to go and pay. I know not to steal. I know not to deceive my friends. And so when in objectivism, we have one fundamental principle or virtue and 6 derivatives. But even more than that, there's the principle that I should always act in my own interest. But I also have to conceptualize what is in my own interest, right? So then we have rationality. Cosmic Wolf with a $2 super sticker. Thank you so much. Cosmic Wolf, I believe you mentioned that you would like to talk to me about something. I don't quite remember what it was right now, but feel free to direct message me on Facebook or X, wherever, and we can cover whatever it is you want to talk about. And as always, folks, remember, if you have something you want to talk about or something you want to ask, feel free to do so. It's perfectly okay with me to change the topic according to the audience's wishes, assuming it's a good question, a good question. So in objectivism, we have the rationality. And then under the rubric of rationality or components of rationality, derivatives of rationality, we have productiveness, we have honesty, we have independence, we have justice, we have integrity, and we have pride. But these are the principles that we should act. The practical application is going to depend on a lot of things, a lot of circumstances in which, the specific action that we have to take. We have to always keep in mind that our own interest is vital. And and remember, this is principle. So it's not just my immediate whims that I'm supposed to be satisfying, it's my long term interest, my long-term survival, my long-term happiness. I do not, if I act on whim or I act according to emotion or according to concretes, then I very possibly and probably will undercut my long-term best interest with the actions that I take today. So while thinking I'm acting in my own interest, I'm actually acting contrary to it. And we do not want to do that. So we want to learn these things, and we want to do what Aristotle said is basically make virtue habits, make them a part of fundamentally who we are so that it becomes almost automatic. It's never automatic. We still have to think. We still have to make choices. We still have to assess. But as we do that, it becomes easier, and we say, okay, I know this is the principle that applies here. I have no plans for New Year's Eve, Danny. On New Year's Day, I'm going to a party in New York, and I did find out that I am supposed to bring something, and I will. I'll bring it. So I'm curious if the audience has any questions about this, about principles. Yes, Jim Valiant. That's the phrase I was looking for, Jim Valiant to the rescue. It becomes second nature. That's the Aristotelian phrase. Jim, how is your voice doing anyway? I'm just curious. Are you feeling any better? Are you able to talk? Daniel says, always bring something, even if it's small. Well, some people take offense maybe when you do that. Daniel, they don't want you to bring anything to their party or to their wedding. I mean, not wedding. I don't know about weddings. I've never been to one, but parties I've been to and bars I've been to. But I'm going to bring something anyway. I talked to the host of the party, and he conveyed to me, yes, that I should bring something. So that's part of the etiquette. So I'll do so. He's nice enough to invite me, so I'll do as he asks. So when especially for me, as a recovered criminal, right? This idea of awesome, Jim Valiant is recovering, that way he can get back to helping me out very, very soon. When I think about the decisions that I've made, a bottle of wine is never rejected. It would be rejected by me, but the recovering alcoholic thing absolutely applies there, Daniel. So when I was free, before I went to prison, I would try to act in my own interest. I thought I was, but I was acting contrary to my own interest because I didn't understand principles. So now I understand the principle. Let's say the principle of theft, right? Does it only apply to your friends' houses? Does it only apply to people that you're visiting? Does it apply to stores? It always applies. What constitutes theft? Well, theft is taking the property of somebody else without their permission. So if I'm at work and I work for somebody and that person, has pens in the office, taking the pen home is stealing. It's taking something that is not mine. It's somebody else's, and it's doing so without the owner's permission. So once I understand that, I know that it applies wherever I go, to wherever I visit, to whatever car I happen to be riding in. How about the principle of honesty? Now, honesty, importantly, does not mean telling the burglar where your valuables are, right? It does not mean telling the Nazis that you have a Jew in your home. It does not mean telling people who are just prying into your business all your personal information. Honesty means always, first of all, being clear in your own mind what the truth is, what reality is. Honesty with self is fundamental. That is first. Be honest with yourself about what's going on in the world, about what's going on with your own motivations. Just trying to deceive yourself is a fool's game. So be honest with yourself. But then when you go outward, you never attempt to gain a value by deceit. Protecting your values by lying is perfectly okay. And I will defend that against anybody, anytime, because it's the same thing as self defense. If somebody tries to hit me, the difference between that and just going to strike somebody to take their wallet. You understand? Self defense, okay. Initiating aggression or initiating force is not okay. So if somebody comes to me and says, where is Jim Valiant, when they want to do Jim Valiant harm, I will lie to them because I'm protecting a value. Now, but I will not go to somebody and say, hey, give me $1,000 and I'll fix your house up for you, when I have no idea how to fix a house up. That would be, you see, so that's the principle, is to be honest in my endeavors, honest when pursuing values, honest when trying to get things for myself or for the people that I love. The evolutionary capitalist says, what if I value aggression? Well, what you've done there is you've created an equivocation, evolutionary capitalist, on the meaning of the term value. You've switched from what I value to what is actually valuable to a human being. That's what you're doing. What is actually in my own interest. Aggression is not in your self-interest, sir. I've spent 25 years in prison with an abundance of people who thought it was, but it was not. When you aggress towards other people, when you commit violence towards other people, you are putting yourself at odds with reality, with the reality of what the survival of a rational being requires. So to go out and be aggression, now he says, now look, at least in some circumstances, note, this is why we live by principle. So I know to initiate force is wrong. To steal is wrong, right? To coerce is wrong. So the fact that I may get away with it in this particular instance, or the fact that I don't like this particular person, the principle remains that I ought not to initiate aggression. I ought not to steal from somebody. Now, there are emergencies, as he touts, but that is taking us far afield from what we're actually talking about, because an emergency, by definition, is a temporary situation. It's a temporary moment that somebody happens to be in. It's temporary, it's unusual, and it's probably life-threatening. So these are not how we function on a daily basis. This is not how we live. Ethics is to help us live our lives and plan for the long term. The ethics are not so that we can come up with hypotheticals of living, I'm out on a lifeboat and there's only room for 5 people, but there's 6 of us. That's not what ethics are for. Ethics are not for, what do I do if my house is burning down and I have to get out, but there's somebody else that wants to get out. Those are temporary situations. Those are things that are anomalous, right? They're not what we do on a daily basis. Okay, evolutionary capitalist, I'm afraid you're in the wrong chap. I'm not touting the nap. This is not a libertarian show where I'm going to be here saying I'm going to steal a penny. I won't steal a penny to save the world. It's simply not what we're doing here. If you want to talk to Liquid Zulu about that, then I would suggest going to do it. If you're here to discuss the ethics that we're actually doing and trying to find out how we can better our lives and live better on a daily basis, then you're in a good place. But if you want to talk about deep stuff, I'd suggest first reading The Virtue of Selfishness and then maybe coming back. I'm not going to be in a sort of debate situation with you on a show where that's not what we're here for. We're here to grow. We're here to learn. If you're interested in debating me on ethics, by all means, DM me. That's what I can do for you. But I simply cannot continue to go astray with outrageous hypotheticals, which is where this ultimately leads. So think about now what we're talking about, when we're living our daily lives and we know the principle. When we know the principle, we don't have to guess each time. We know the principle and then we try to apply it to the best of our abilities. So back to this, to the the instance of lying, is we are honest in our value pursuit. We are honest with ourselves. There are times where being dishonest is, I don't even know if it would be properly dishonesty, but I said, but let's just say lying would be a proper strategy if I'm threatened. Uh, Nia Swift says, I'm new here, only been watching 10 minutes so far. I feel like you haven't really discussed everyday ethics. Well, everyday ethics entails the application of principle, Nia. As you can see in the title of the show, Everyday Ethics, the importance of principles. So today we are discussing the importance of applying principles in our everyday lives. So you've only been here 10 minutes. We've been on 16. We were discussing earlier the situation of why principles are valuable in everyday ethics, because we don't have to learn every time, every new situation we face, whether we're at a friend's house, a relative's house, in somebody else's car, on a bus, in a supermarket, at the mall. By the application of principles, or when we're at work, for instance, we know the principle. So if I am, and the reason that we're applying principles to everyday ethics is to promote our long-term interest. So if you're at work, for instance, Miss, I'm assuming you're a female. If you're not, I apologize and just tell me so. If you're talking about the principle of productiveness, we know that human beings, right, we have to produce to survive, or we become dependent on the production of somebody else, right? So we have to produce things that we can trade to people. So if I am employed, or if I go into my own business, let's say I'm an entrepreneur, right? So Jim says a very good point. We need principles every day as habits. That is what moral character means. We shape our own moral character. Yes. Yes, well, that's true. Stealing stationery from an office is not an extreme case, but perhaps Nia wasn't here for that example where we discussed the stealing of pens. But let's focus here on production. What does it mean to produce? It means to bring value into the world, right? That's what production is. You're bringing value into the world. That takes effort. So if I am going to go into the, let's say, I got a book here, a book. So evolutionary capitalist, please. I already addressed that at the beginning, so I'm not going to, and I already asked you to please not ask these kind of questions. I told you I will debate if you want, but not here. That's not the purpose of this show. I'm asking you nicely to please stop. If you want to debate, DM me. We can do it. So, well, whatever. When you're talking about being productive. Oh, wow. Kathy Cassio with the 1999. Thanks for the great content and end of year gift. Thank you so much, Kathy, for the 1999. I really, really appreciate it. Okay, so we know that. So now if I'm in the business of selling books, right? How do I be productive? What is the principle? What is okay, evolutionary capitalist, got it, but I already defined the term, not going to keep doing it. I apologize. I'm not trying to be mean to you, but if I want to be productive, so it's in my interest to sell books. If say I'm, this is the business I've gone into. Okay, well, who is my target audience? Well, they're readers. Okay, but I'm not going to, supply books perhaps to readers of everything. So specifically, what type of reader am I trying to sell to? My personal, like this book here, this is what we value. It's a book on the neuroscience of value. So let's say that if I'm selling this book, or Leonard Peikoff's Objectivism, the Philosophy of Ayn Rand, I'm trying to sell books to people who are philosophically inclined, people that are intellectual people that want to be challenged. So then it's in my interest now. I have to figure out, okay, where are these people? What are the kind of people that are into this stuff? What are the demographics? I'm going to say that 7 and 8 year olds probably not going to be into this kind of stuff. Perhaps college students would, right? So, okay, so college students might be, but I have to figure out the type of demographic that reads these type of books. Where are they? What is their income? How much are they going to pay for things? All of this is entailed when you think about productivity. It entails effort, it entails intelligence, it entails application to the concrete situation. Now, you could think about in regard to any career that you want to pursue. If you want to be a carpenter, okay, well then you have to learn about the various types of wood. How do the various type of wood react to the environment that you might happen to be in? How does what type of projects are people willing to pay for? Birdhouses, maybe. Houses, something else, maybe cabinets. There's various things, and you have to figure out your audience. You also have to figure out the type of tools that it takes in order to build this. Do you need a router? What type of drill bits do you need? Hammers, screwdrivers, whatever. The point is that to be productive isn't just about going out and grabbing stuff with your hands. It's about learning how to build things. It's about learning about your customer. If you work for somebody else, it's about learning what your boss wants, what his expectations are for you. You have to continue to do that, to expand your knowledge, to grow. Something that used to drive me crazy while I was incarcerated was the mental health staff showed very, very little interest in staying up to date on new studies, on new theories. They just kind of coasted because, well, they're unionized and they know they're going to get paid regardless, and nobody really expects a lot out of them. So they were unfamiliar with, basic terms in criminal rehabilitation, like criminogenic needs, for instance, or the risk need responsivity model. They knew nothing about. That used to bother me. I'm like, you guys are here. You're supposed to be treating people. You're supposed to be helping people grow, but yet you're not even up to date with, common terms or the newest theory. And it would seem to me, if you wanted to be good at something, you would want to continually learn, to continually grow. And that is part of being productive. And now let's think about something like being independent. Suppose that every time I go out, I'm dependent on the thinking of others. I'm dependent on the opinions of others. So it's always, what should I do? Where should I go? What should I value? What things should I find entertaining? Right? Independence applied every day means I make my own thoughts. I mean, I don't make my own thoughts. I make my own decisions. I do my own thinking. I don't rely on the thinking of others. So even if I read a book, for instance, I have to come to the conclusions that the author puts forth myself. I can't simply take Leonard Peikoff or Jim Valiant's word for it when they're giving me a theory. I say, okay, that's good. That's the correct theory. Right? I actually have to do the intellectual work on my own. I have to be independent in thought. I have to rely on my own judgment, and I have to do this every day of my life. What store should I go to? Where should I shop? What mechanic ought I go to? Who should be my doctor? Right? I have to think about all these things and then apply the lessons that I learn on a daily basis and do so based on my own judgment. If I don't do that, then I become like a puppet at the mercy of anybody that comes along and wants to sway me, right? Because they put forth an idea, I'm dependent on their thoughts, so I go to do it. Now, you also want to be independent as far as producing the things that your life needs. Now, there's a common misconception where people say, no, you're interdependent. Well, in the sense that I'm trading with them, if you're saying I'm dependent on trade, that's fine. But there's a difference between being dependent on trading, which I would say is still independent because I'm still producing the value that I can trade. There's a difference between that and being dependent on somebody else to produce for me, right? So for the woman who asked about everyday ethics, well, this occurs constantly, right? In your choice of movies, your choice of television shows, your choice of music, your choice of foods. You always have to, if you want to prosper long term, Be independent in thought, make your own decisions in regard to everything. This applies everywhere. All of the virtues, ultimately, you're going to be applying them to various degrees in your life if you want to succeed, if you want to grow, if you want to be better. Now, what about something as simple as justice, right? Justice, the principle of justice. We all, well, I don't know about we all, but most people, I think, well, they accept justice that if somebody commits a crime, that person should be punished, should go to jail. But what about justice in your everyday dealings? What about giving the people justice is giving people what they deserve, right? So what about your dealings with everyday people, with your friends? Do you focus on the friends or the friends who pay no attention to you, who don't provide value? Do you seek them out and ignore the friends that actually bring value to your life? Well, that would be an act of injustice. If you have a friend that all that person wants to do is gossip about other people, isn't interested in your best interest, is giving you bad advice, trying to get you to be bad things, and that person you're rewarding, that's an act of injustice. Or what if you're punishing the people that don't like you? You're punishing the people that do like you, that are smart, that are wise, that want to create value, that love existence, and you're treating them poorly. That would be an act of injustice as well. Jim Valiant says, deciding on my job, my wife, my friends, my hobbies, my health habits, etc., etc. Yes, independence applies to all of them, but how you're treating other people is where justice comes into play. You want to be just. You want to reward good behavior and not reward or even punish bad behavior. Why? Because it's in your long-term interest to do so. Imagine a world, or imagine your life, if you are consistently rewarding bad behavior and punishing good behavior. If it's just you doing this, what happens? Uh, you're likely to increase the bad behaviors around you and decrease the good behaviors around you. And how is that in your own interest? Now, if you multiply that, on a grand scale, if the entire country is doing that, or like in prison, often good behaviors punished, bad behaviors rewarded, you get more of the bad behavior and you end up with a failing correctional system. So that is why you want to live according to justice, because it is in your interest to do so. The last of the virtues that I'm going to cover, and this is, I haven't covered them all, is just integrity, loyalty to rational principles. What that means is that you want to consistently practice these principles in your life. Consistently do so. That means you don't breach them, you don't break them, you don't make exceptions based on your emotional appeals or based on whims. Because in order for the principles to be effective, they have to be practiced consistently. On a simple matter, if you decide to try to cheat reality while you're building a cabinet, the cabinet's going to break. It's going to fall apart. It's not going to do what you want it to do. Same thing with a house, a car, or anything else. If you try to stray, if you try to take shortcuts, you're going to end up suffering for it. But when dealing with other people, if you become the person who's known for not having integrity, right? Then other people are not going to want to deal with you. Your business fails. There's an abundance of penalties that you will suffer. So this is just a short discussion that we've had today on the importance of principles. I highly suggest that anybody in the audience read Ayn Rand's The Virtue of Selfishness. Maybe read her essay, Causality versus Duty, is very good as well. Ultimately, I would suggest reading the entire corpus of objectivism, but that's a lot, and maybe you're not interested in doing all that. So tomorrow we will be back here at the same time, 2:30 p.m. Maybe I don't know. We'll see. We'll figure something out. We'll do something. We'll have a good topic, I'm sure. I appreciate all the questions and all the comments. Daniel says biggest success in his business is from reviews. Integrity speaks loud. Yes, it does. Okay, Lee Frazier. Thank you. So just thanks everybody once again. Thank you for the super chats, super stickers. Really appreciate it. Can't tell you how much. I look forward to being here with you tomorrow. Please join. Please subscribe. Please share. Like. Do it all. Go to YouTube and make comments. Really appreciate it. Love you all. Thank you so much, Persephone. Take care and be ethical.